Hey everybody, it's Shark Scrapper. I thought I would just take a minute to talk about hammers, or as my good friend Ian Matthews likes to call them, aumers. They're a very common tool. They're a necessity in any scrapper's toolkit. I just thought I would address some of the pros and cons. Now look, if you're an experienced scrapper, you would know all this already. But for those of you that are new to the game, there's a few things to consider. First of all, you have your basic claw hammer. Very common. You're going to find it in every hardware store in the world. The claw hammer is called a claw because of this part here, this claw. And this arched claw is used to pull nails out of things. So you have a nail sticking up, you hook it with the claw, you rotate it back, it levers the nail out of the wood. And then of course you hammer the nail in on this side. They come in various sizes and weights. You know, you want one that's comfortable for you. The longer the handle, the more leverage you're going to get. Some people grab them up here, which I don't quite understand, because you're trying to get maximum force when you swing this thing, especially if you're actually nailing things into wood. Now, very common tool. Almost everybody, I'm betting everybody, has a claw hammer. Now, the other two hammers are a little bit more unusual, but I have found them to be even more valuable than the claw hammer. So, the first one is the brick hammer. Now, if you have watched Ian Matthews' channel, you see that he uses a brick hammer almost exclusively. It's the big difference here, if you put the claw hammer and the brick hammer together side by side, is that the brick hammer has an almost straight blade shape, whereas the claw hammer is arched and split, so you can get nails up in there to pull out. The brick hammer was designed to break bricks, so you would hit the brick and that would cause a break line on the brick, and then you would pop the end off. So this was designed for breaking bricks. Now, what I like about the brick hammer is this edge, this broad flat edge, comes in very handy. I'll show you here in just a minute one of the new ideas, one of the new ways that I'm using this when I'm taking apart fans to just turn them into small electric motors. Now, in a previous video, you saw me scrapping out these fans, and I was taking my edge cutter and cutting the arms. Look at this. That is so much nicer. It's less cutting action, and I do a lot of cutting, so it reduces the amount of cutting that I have to do, and it's just more fun. There are no end of the possibilities to what a broad kind of edge like that can do in scrapping to help you tear things apart. And then, of course, you still need to beat stuff sometimes, so there you go. There's the beating end of it. Now, the next one is even more unusual. This is a rock hammer, or a geologist's hammer. Now, you'll notice that it has a lot of similarities to the brick hammer. The claw or blade area is not heavily curved, but instead of having a broad point, it has a very direct point. So instead of like a blade, you would probably call that a blade, it has a point. Now this is a very heavy, I mean the weight of this hammer is quite heavy, because a geologist would be breaking rocks with it. It has a point because one of the easiest ways to break the rock is to concentrate all of that energy in a small point and cause the fracture lines to come out from that. So it is pointed. Now, I have found this hammer to be very useful because I can punch a point in something very quickly. I'm a really bad aim, so it may take a few hits, but you can punch a point into something and then pry something out, or just punch a nut or a rusted up bolt out of the way or something of that nature. So, brick hammer and geologist or rock hammer are becoming my two favorite hammers in the scrapping world. I have another couple other hammers that I'm going to talk about here. They're even more specialized and maybe not for everybody's taste, but let's go take a look at those. All right, so next up in the hammer world is a rubber mallet. Now, some of you are probably saying, well, what are you going to do with a rubber mallet? Come on, we're scrapping here. Sometimes you got to take stuff apart or put it together again, and you don't want to damage it. Metal shelves are a very good example of that. With a rubber mallet, you can give it a good whack, and you're probably not going to dent it or mess it up real bad. And that's just something that you got to do sometimes when you're, taking those kind of things apart. Now, the other hammer that we're going to talk about is just sheer handheld destruction. We're talking a good, heavy-duty steel mallet. I mean, you beat something with this, and you're breaking it. Okay, it's going to break. And sometimes you just want to put a lot of mass behind what you're swinging, and that's what the mallet will do for you. Sometimes even the mallet, though, is not enough because you need to get a good arc and a good swing. And so that takes us to our last hammer. Hammer that's not really a hammer, it's a maul. It's a splitter maul, to be more precise. You can see that we've got a edge here, a sharp edge, so that when you swing this thing at a chunk of wood like a stump or something like that, you can cause it to split, and it's used for splitting down firewood. I find this to be a very useful tool. The splitter one in particular, the sharp edge on one side, the blunt edge on the other. I have taken apart everything from furniture. I didn't put it back together again, by the way, after I did that, to cast iron tubs and things of that nature. Sometimes you just need a good heavy swing to break stuff up. If you're going to get one of these, I recommend the splitter one because you do sometimes need that sharp edge. So just something to think about. All right, now I did purposely leave off one particular hammer out of this discussion, and it's because I really haven't found a good use for it. A lot of you know what I'm talking about. If you think you know what I'm talking about, go ahead and leave a comment down below. What hammer did I not talk about that is actually pretty common? But I gotta scratch my head and say, why have it? Because I've never found a good use for it in scrapping. Doesn't mean that it's not a good hammer. Doesn't mean that it doesn't have good uses in certain applications. It just means that I haven't found it very useful in the scrapping world. I'd love to see your comments down below. What hammer did I leave off the list? All right, everybody, this is Shark Scrapper. Have a great day.